for a period of 30 days from the date of the board's decision. Successful applicants that elect to move forward with their project before the 30-day time period expires do so at their own risk. Gentlemen, you should have received a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. If you have reviewed them and have no additions or corrections, I will ask for a motion to approve as written.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I want to speak to you a little bit today before we get started about this type of case that we have here. What we have here today is called a special exception. Special exceptions are different from variances in that special exceptions, this use has already been judged to be allowed in the various zoning districts. It's already an allowed use. We can't stop it. This board right here is not going to decide today whether the solar panels come or the solar panels don't come. This is an allowed use. Special exceptions are reserved for certain pre-approved uses throughout the zoning district. These uses are already allowed by the code in these districts and cannot be denied by this board except in rare instances where, in the board's opinion, sufficient testimony has been presented to establish that the use as presented today is worse in this location than anywhere else in the zoning district. That's hard to prove, okay? So the board can, however, through this special exception process, which it allows us to do, is impose reasonable additional conditions to help alleviate any concerns. But that's basically what we're here to do today. So you should know that we cannot. It's an allowed use, folks. It's already been decided. If you don't agree with that, you have to take that up with your county commissioners. This board here cannot change that for you today. We have to abide by the zoning code. So, zoning code. So at this point, I'll move ahead and start the public hearing portion of our meeting. The application today, dated April 24, 2025, submitted by Thrasher Engineering on behalf of UGE and Alexandra and Ekaterina Koifman, have applied for a special exception for a solar energy generating system community. The property is located on 465 Pyle Road, McHenry, Maryland, 21541, tax map 42, parcel 29, grid 13, and is zoned Lake Residential 2. Pursuant to sections 157.024 and 157.080 of the Deep Creek Watershed Zoning Ordinance, solar energy generating systems, community systems, uses require a special exception permit in all zones. That's what we're here to do today. Notices have been sent to all surrounding property owners as well as the applicants. We didn't receive any letters in opposition. We received some letters with some questions that zoning administrators answered as they came in, but no real letters of opposition. So at this point, I'll ask whoever is presenting on behalf of UGE to step up to the microphone. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony that you're about to present to the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals is the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
William Dahlbach and work address.
Yeah, here you go.
417 Fifth Avenue, Suite 03, New York.
Please proceed.
Can you get the microphone?
Could you please pull the microphone up a little bit?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Take it out. What's this?
Perfect.
Test 1 2 1 2. No, we're not.
There we go.
All right. Well, I'm happy to just kick this off, and my partner Spencer and I will walk through this. So, just giving everyone a high-level overview today of who UGE is, and a little bit about the project. So we'll just start with that. So, UGE, my company, is based out of New York City. We are known as a IPP, independent power producer. What that means is we develop, finance, own, and operate systems. So this is what we would view as a long-term solar asset for our company. Currently, we are under a lease agreement with the landowner of the site to develop a 2.46 megawatt DC system at the address here on Passau Road. With that being said, the type of system this will be is what's called a community solar project. So the state of Maryland has a community solar program that is not permanent, and the idea is for this project to participate in it. That will allow us to let local citizens of their county subscribe to the system to get savings on their electricity. So that's just a little bit about the project. Should we move on to? Want me to just go through the narrative?
Yeah. I'm just going to click through our letter narrative that was included with our application.
If you're going to present testimony, I need your name and,
Oh, okay,
and
sorry.
I need to swear you in as well.
Yep. My name is Isaac Williams, also with UG with Willem. Same work address, 417 Fifth Avenue, Suite 803, New York, 10016.
You swear and affirm that the testimony that you're about to present to the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals is the truth?
I
Please,
affirm.
please proceed.
You can zoom in for me.
Yep.
All right. So as mentioned, we kind of went through the background here.
Use microphone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As mentioned, we just went through the background here. We will move on to section 2. So I'll start with some of this, and then I'll go ahead and hand off to Spencer here, who works with Thrasher. Key dynamics here of the project. So the project contemplates the existing setbacks, which is a 100-foot buffer from the property line to the solar panels. The project will be screened, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. The height of the solar panels, so blue oriented at maximum tilt, the height will not exceed the 20-foot height specified in section 9. Going to be about 2. As it relates to glare, which we know can sometimes come up, it's worth noting that the solar panels have an anti-reflective coating on them. So we don't anticipate glare to be any sort of issue. It's also worth noting, as we'll illustrate here a little bit more, that there will be existing vegetation around the south and the east side. There will also be an installation of screening that will eventually kind of be about 45 feet. I'm going to hand this over to Spencer.
Hi, my name is Spencer Bruscoach, and I represent Thrasher.
Spencer, do you swear and affirm that the testimony that you're about to present to the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals is the truth?
Yes.
Please proceed.
So UG has already preemptively taken into consideration the view shed from the neighboring properties. Like Willem was talking about, they are willing to produce a 7-foot stockade fence around the entire site, so north, south, east, and west. Along with the stockade fence that will provide immediate screening for the project, they're also going to install the vegetative screening that will grow into the project during the life of the project. Will may be able to speak a little bit better, but long term, I think project life expectancy is 30 years. Here's a picture of what the vegetative screening along with the stockade fence behind it would look like from adjoining properties. And this is what it would look like from all surrounding aspects of the property. It is also noted that there are environmental features on the site, which we are completely avoiding, there's no impacts to the wetland or the stream or Garrett County's assumed environmental buffers. So there are no environmental impacts on this project, and there is an existing power line right away to the north, and UGE is also going to provide the stockade fence and the vegetative screening on that side as well. So here, the red is the existing trees that will remain on the project. So including the existing trees, there will be the rectangular hatch here would be the vegetative screening that will be planted after the tree clearing. There's an additional 20-foot area here for the fire marshal. Just Thrasher's experience working with solar in Garrett County, we know that the fire marshal is going to require access around the entire site. So we have accompanied them with a 20-foot access road. And then you have the solar site itself. These are obviously the panels, and then they have their inverter and equipment along with the access road into the site, which will come off the southeastern portion of the project. So that is basically the project in a nutshell.
Anything else to present?
Spencer, do you want to quickly show Spencer went out and took photos of the view shed. This is obviously a plan set, but we have some photos that show where the project is, and then with this like surrounding ski slope, other neighboring properties, there's an arrow indicating where our array is, fully surrounded by these trees that will encompass the property. So I'm just going to skim to those, and Spencer can talk briefly more about the view shed analysis that was conducted.
Yeah, sorry. So not only did we take into consideration the adjoining properties, but we looked at the project site from every available view shed in the surrounding area. So there are some areas that we specifically wanted to point out. The areas in red are the areas that you could potentially see the site from. So this area, the property, it is a gradually rolling hill. So even though we will be clearing a portion it will be 11.73 acres of tree clearing, even though we will be clearing that amount of trees, you will not be able to see, from what we believe from the view shed analysis, you will not be able to see any panels from any of the areas we deem that you could be able to see. The only thing you would be able to see is from here, the project site location, you may be able to see the clearing that would take place, but the panels themselves would not be visible from any other points. And if you keep scrolling, you can see basically what point here would be the only area. This is from the, can you scroll down a little bit so I can see exactly where this was?
Top of West Mountain.
That's Tottenham, right? Yeah, this is West Mountain Road condos. This would be the area that the tree clearing would be most visible from. But again, the nature of the area, the rolling topography, we believe that you still would not be able to see any solar panels on the project. The existing tree line is 65 foot tall. The panels at full tilt would be on average 15 foot high. So there's definitely a lot of room from the existing tree line, and that's one of the reasons we're keeping a buffer of the existing trees on the project location.
What is the height of the panels at maximum tilt?
So the height of the panels at maximum tilt would be around 15 foot. It would, the code in Maryland states that it needs to be below 20 foot. The panels at maximum tilt would be about 15 foot, which is below the mandated 20 foot.
How big of?
Hold on a second, please. Let's let him, we'll have time for questions in a minute, okay? I don't want to get bogged down in that. You got anything else to put out there for us, Spencer?
I believe we're good.
You good? Board members, we got any questions for Spencer while we got him here?
No, sir.
Spencer, just for a record, and I've seen within this presentation that you've done, the height of the vegetative plantings that you intend to put in addition to the natural screening that you have at planting, what will those heights be?
So we do have a picture of what the planting would be. So that is the reason we are going with an immediate screening with the stockade fence. So as soon as construction is completed, the stockade fence would be your immediate screening for the project. And then afterwards, the plantings that would be in there, those are roughly 4 to 5 foot tall whenever they're first planted, and then throughout the life of the project, they would grow up to around 30 to 35 foot at full maturity.
And that addresses a concern, I think, for some people in this room that have seen projects like this outside of the watershed, where there has been vegetation requested where you get maybe a foot high plantings.
Yeah.
So that addresses something I think people would be interested in.
Yeah, and that's the reason that we are doing the stockade fence, is because that provides the initial screening directly after construction. So we understand that trees take time to grow. The vegetative screening would be 4 to 5 foot on initial installation, so the stockade fence would provide that screening initially.
Does that satisfy you?
Yes.
Okay. The access road, the fire marshal access road, is that a paved road?
They are fine with it being
Just a gravel road
grass track
inside,
way.
inside there?
Inside the road.
You spoke about glare, and you don't anticipate any glare. How can we assure our residents that, what if there is glare? You don't anticipate it, but what if there is? What steps can you take after the fact if you have a glare problem?
So we can circle back up on if there was a glare problem, what we could do. But initially, the array itself has an anti-reflective coating. They do not reflect light, they absorb light. Along with the stockade fence, the vegetative screening that we're going to provide, and the existing tree buffer that is surrounding the project, that is why we do not anticipate a glare problem. If landowners to the south, if they are concerned with glare, another thing that they could consider is the panels will rotate from east to west and not north to south. So if there was glare, it would be on the eastern and western portion of the property.
Can you pull the map up and
Yeah,
show us the east and
go
west?
back to the map.
Would the site plan work?
Yeah.
I'll have to zoom out here.
So up to the north, obviously this is all wooded. To the west is wooded and to the east is wooded, but I assume the question would be from the property owners to the south. And so the panels will tilt east to west. So if there was glare from the panels, it would be directed in the eastern and western portion and not towards.
Point to east and west for me on there.
Sorry, west and east.
Okay.
This is south, this is north.
Okay.
And the panels would rotate from west to east and back.
So explain to us that don't know about solar. These are flat panels that tilt
Yes.
face to east in the morning and then follow the sun and end up facing west at sunset.
Yes, and they move slowly throughout the day to capture the most sunlight. They rotate with the sun.
And that's a quiet process. There's no big motor. There's just a little electric motor that does that gradually all day.
Yes.
And then overnight it resets to east so it's ready for sunup.
Yes.
That's the case. Okay. All right. And so when you say full tilt, you mean in the morning or in the afternoon, because in the late afternoon, because in the middle of the day it's going to be flat facing up, right?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. And so tell us the setback, point to us so everybody can understand, because I can see it, but everybody might not be able to see the little numbers. So point to us the 100-foot setback from the panels. So down on the bottom of the screen, if you scroll up a little bit, you have a dimension line. So you're 100 foot goes from the closest panel to the property line.
Correct. So
To the property line.
Yes, so the property line is just above the existing Ferguson Road here. The 100-foot setback would be to the very tip of the most, from where the solar panels would be, and that is in code with what Garrett County specifies as the 100-foot
Sure,
setback.
sure. So that everybody understands, from Ferguson Road, in this view right here, from Ferguson Road going towards the solar arrays, the red is existing vegetation, and that's, what is that dimension? It's going to stay unchanged, unmolested from what it is now. It's about 40 feet, is that right?
Correct. This is a 40-foot existing vegetative buffer that will remain on the project site.
It'll stay as it is right now,
It'll stay as is
Yep.
right now. And
other than
you-
your access road, wherever you bring that in. Other
Correct.
than that, all the way around the site will stay as it is now.
Correct.
And then we have, then show me I see limited disturbance. What's the black hatched area there?
So we have the LOD, where the tree clearing will begin. The rectangular hatch right here in black would be the 20-foot
That's your
vegetative
road.
buffer.
Okay,
Yeah, so this is the vegetative buffer right here. So the vegetative buffer will be in front of where the fire marshal access.
okay, so that's what you're planning. The black hatched area is what you're planning.
Correct.
Okay, and so then the highest, on the high side of that hatched area is the fence?
Yes, right here, the circular line would be the stockade fence.
Okay,
around-
so
around
the
property.
road for the fire marshal access is around the outside of the fence,
Correct.
between the new plantings and the fence?
Correct.
Like, I just want to make sure everybody understands the layout over there.
Yep, the fire marshal doesn't have any concerns with going into the project site. They just want to maintain if anything were to happen, so they want their access to be outside the fence.
And you gentlemen know that we're here today to talk about the zoning aspect of this case. Your application still has to conform to all stormwater, all Garrett County stormwater. They're responsible for their own runoff, just like you would be if you build a house or anything else. That's all after this meeting. Once they get past here, that's all stuff they have to do. Their egress off the road, any county, state, any ordinances, they still have to meet and comply to, correct?
Yes, it is understood that we need an entrance permit, a grading permit. There will be stormwater bonds, decommissioning bonds, vegetative screening bonds. So yes, it is understood that there is additional permitting and bonds associated with this project.
So typically on a project like this, what kind of stormwater work do you see? Do you see retention ponds and berms and swales in your experience doing this stuff? Is that what you're going to see?
For this site specifically, yes, there will be a temporary sediment trap because of the tree clearing
Mhm.
that we will have. And then, in our experience working with Garrett County, we will implement level spreaders or energy dissipators, which are stone trenches just to break up runoff throughout the site.
So surrounding this project during construction and when it's done, there'll be no additional runoff from your project. You will contain all your runoff on your project,
Correct.
right? What else, Steve?
That's good.
What gets planted, what grows from your fence in or in and around all your solar panels and all this other area where we don't see it? It's just a grass, it's just go back wild? What happens there?
Yeah, it will be a pollinator mix.
Explain pollinator mix for me.
So it'll be something that bees and other insects would be fond of and like to be
It'll be a
around.
grass or something, some kind of grass or low growing
Yeah.
vegetation.
Yeah, it'll be like a solar mix, which is low growth, so they won't have to go in there and mow a lot.
Right.
Usually around 6 to 12 inches tall, kind of a low growing field grass, which if you want to relate it to something.
Okay. And I know a lot of this is in your packet, but everybody can't, so I'm just trying to make sure everybody sees what we see and understands what we see.
Absolutely.
So, you talked a little bit about a decommissioning bond. Explain to us what a decommissioning bond is.
So a decommissioning bond is a bond that essentially affirms that at the end of the project life, the project will be decommissioned. So if, like, UGE was not in business, that bond would be there as a way to ensure that the project gets decommissioned.
So it's an insurance policy paid for by you that ensures if something happens to this, whether it's the end of life or whether you go under or whatever, and I
Yep.
believe it says in our ordinance, if it stops producing energy for 12 consecutive months or something like that, it's considered abandoned. There is money in there for them to put the project, get rid of everything and put it back to pre-construction conditions. Is what this means, correct?
That's right.
I mean, the trees would be,
Yep.
the trees would be gone, but anyway, it would be revegetated and stuff like that.
Correct.
So you're talking about a pretty substantial stockade fence around this property. Talk to us, tell the people about your maintenance and your commitment to keeping this up. What if a tree falls down and breaks the stockade fence? What if it starts rotting after a couple years? They're going to have an eyesore. How are you taking care of that?
So it's important to note, UG will own and operate the system, so it's in our best interest in situations where issues emerge to address it. We enter into operation and maintenance agreements with landscape firms and with electrical outfits that make sure the system is operating how it should be. So we would likely get word of it from our partners, and we would absolutely want to address any sort of issue with the fence should it emerge.
So we understand a complaint-based system. If an adjoiner sees a problem, there'll be somewhere they can call and tell you, hey, your fence fell down or whatever. But beyond that, you're committed in your paperwork there to basically inspect the area how many times a year?
So I think at a minimum, as we indicate in our letter narrative, we contemplate three O&M site visits a year. Should there be any additional issues, our system is monitored by a special system, and you can do a truck roll to have people go out and address any issues related to the solar.
Yeah. So I'm not talking about so much about the panels and the operation of the panels. I'm talking about for you folks the fence and keeping the place looking nice and up and kept up. So okay. You guys have any other questions for him? All right. Thank you. Is there anybody else present that wants to speak in favor of this application? How many of you want to speak against the application? Okay. Everybody just going to, in the interest of time, I'd ask everybody that wants to present testimony to stand up, and I'll swear you all in at once, okay? How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. You swear and affirm that the testimony that you will give to the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals is the truth? I'm going to start right here. Step forward and state your name, please, sir.
My name is Eric Perfetti. I'm a resident and property owner on Paisley Road. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand what a special exemption is, but in that, I have 4 different things I'd just like to mention to you all on the board. I guess it's not a precedent, since it's already in Comar law, that they can actually do this to a piece of lake residential property. But again, it sets a bad precedence when you have to do a special exemption for property that was never designed for industrial use. It was zoned as a residential area. When I bought my property on Paisley Road, ladies and gentlemen, I bought that property full in knowledge that it was zoned as lake residential. There would be no commercial or industrial businesses put on Paisley Road, where it's actually zoned as lake residential. That's one point I want to make. One of the other points I want to make to you is, will this devalue my property? I own 6 acres on Paisley Road, and it is developed, as my private residence. When I go to sell it, is your company going to do a inspection or a research in whether this will actually value my property or keep it as is.
Statistically shown as property
please,
value
please,
by 10%.
please.
Yeah, so, again, across the board, it does show, there is evidence that it will decrease my property value and all property values on Plaza Road by up to 10%. That's a lot of money, guys. A great deal of money. All the setbacks, all the, buffers they're proposing to put in. I have seen this in the past, gentlemen, where, they say, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to put a fence up, and we're going to put trees in, when in fact, once the exception is permitted, that doesn't happen. And does the zoning board, and I don't mean your board, I mean the actual zoning board, do they have in place a way to enforce the proposals that this company wants to put in? Are you going to say, okay, the fence is not 7 foot high? Oh, you didn't put in the tree buffers. What are you going to do about that now? From what I can read, gentlemen, the zoning board has no, use the right word, no teeth to enforce the proposals that this company wants to institute on that piece of property. It's a situation where that property was never zoned to be an industrial use property, and it's all surrounded by, and on up the hill almost a mile, by nothing but residential property. I'm against this. It should be permitted. I will give you one piece of information. It happened about 20 years ago. A marina wanted to buy some property a little further up the road behind my property to put a storage facility in. And again, with Comar law, that was going to be an allowed exception. Well, it wasn't allowed. The road wasn't wide enough to have boats going up and down the road along with school buses. And that is a school bus route on Plaza Road, and the road is not a 50-foot wide road. It doesn't meet the new county standards. It's just an old road, and it is a county road, but it does not meet the standards for busing and the like. So that they actually did not get their exception. It was denied by this board 20-some years ago. So there was some precedent set already on Plaza Road not to allow these exceptions. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
So after everybody, thanks, Mr. Buffet, thank you. After everybody has their chance to speak, we'll give them a chance to rebut and answer some of your questions. I'd like to help you along the way as I go. Again, unfortunately, it is a use. It is a permitted use, as I stated earlier, with special exception. So it is a permitted use. They're going to, I'm sure, in his rebuttal, he's going to offer reports that says that it doesn't affect property value. So I know what you're saying. Okay. What else?
Enforcement.
Oh, enforcement. Yes. There is a performance bond, so they will not release their so there's a decommissioning bond, and there's also a performance bond on these type of things. So they have to put on whatever they present. They have to put 4 to 5 foot trees on. They have to put this, or they won't get their bond back. And the bond is worth more than the trees. That's right. Okay. All right, ma'am. Think you're next.
You already saw my precedent. Reaching out earlier.
Your name, please, for the record.
Margie Perfetti, and I've lived at work 36 years at the top of the road. And like he said, I know not variance, but exception. Who made a decision to put an exception to allow industrial things in residential areas near homes? So my first thing is that I think we should preserve what little zoning we have and protections in this county. Then I was going to mention this land was zoned lake residential for a very good reason. It's within 5 miles of the lake and the ski slopes, which supports they're the premier attractions for this county to support our #1 industry of vacation and recreation, which includes lots of forests and wooded areas. And secondly, like he said, we had lived in another over on Mosser Road, and it turned out that one little stretch of road we were on was a watershed from Friendsville or something, and it was unzoned, and we ended up with a storage facility right off the back of our deck where we used to overlook beautiful farms. So we specifically sought out the lake residential to be, and it's a neighborhood up there, it's homes. The other thing is, this road cannot handle this kind of construction, or we have one access in and one access out. And the road is so narrow that the county doesn't even put a center line on it. When the school bus comes down, we have to move over. But more importantly, we have aging residents, and what if we need emergency vehicles? How long does it take to haul out acres and acres of trees onto this little road? Then when you get down to the intersection on 219, the congestion down there is already terrible. In the summer, it gets backed up halfway up the road, which is the summer for holiday weekends. And I'm not an Army Corps of Engineer or anything, but this is at the bottom of the road. And if you take out that many trees, it's flooding right now today. Is that gonna flood the apartments and the shopping center, and they could have flooding? Or look at the mudslides like in Westernport and Fairmont that are going on right now. So my other fear is that the road, we can't be without access, and it's not like you can have one lane open and one lane closed. If they're hauling stuff, when the county works on the road, it's closed, and they have to stop, they have to get out of the way. And this is the only access for people going to work, the school bus, and it's a school bus route. So there was that, and like he said, they denied the marina because the road couldn't handle, it wasn't wide enough, and it couldn't handle the weights. So there's that major inconvenience, and I don't know how long this would take, but we can't be where we can't get in and out to our homes. And it's not that I'm against solar farms, I'm very much for solar farms, but not in the middle of a neighborhood, close to people's homes, when there are plenty of wide open areas, old strip mine areas, which are already cleared. I mean, to clear 20 acres of trees, or even, he said 11, but we thought it was 20, how is that even economical? You know? So, anyway, my point is, I just think trying to put it in there is going to cause major harm, and the road would be destroyed pretty quickly, I would think. But, anyway, I want to keep it short.
All right, well, thank you. And Eric, I should have asked you this as well. Do you have is there any conditions, assume for a moment that the solar farms come in, is there anything else any conditions that you would like to see us take a look at?
Do differently?
Yeah.
No, I just don't think the road and the intersection at the shopping center is going to make it impossible. How long does it take to haul that many trees out onto a roadway that we would be so inconvenienced for so long, and we can't be where you don't have access? It's not safe.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's another one.
All right. Who's next?
I'm Maria Perfetti. I think that we have zoning regulations in place to organize land use, prevent incompatible development, and maintain community character. A solar panel farm is not compatible to our zoned area, and in no way would maintain our community's character. This is an industrial-sized project and would limit us access out of our homes. Causes delays. I mean, I work in this community, my husband works in this community, there are several other members that work in the community that live at the top of that road, and that's one of my concerns. I'm also concerned because I'm not sure if you understand what is under all of those trees is solid bedrock. So if you do have to put wiring in and they have to blast the area, that's gonna cause noise violations. And when I was reading the zoning ordinance, one of the things that you guys should consider, it's in the zoning ordinance, the effect of odors, dust, gas, smoke, fumes, vibrations, glare, and noise upon use of the surrounding properties. That would affect our community if they did have to go into blast. And it's really sad to see all of that, those trees go. But what can you, anyway, that's all I have to say, thanks.
Thanks, Maria. Who's next? Going back? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm Robert Lindsay. I'm the immediate neighbor to the south. And I'm not saying opposition. I believe everybody should be able to do what they want with their own property.
Speak.
I believe everybody should be able to do what they want with their own property. That's personal. But from living there, from building, from working on my home around, Mr. Kelly says correct about the bedrock. So there's a great big shelf rock that goes for probably a mile and a half above, that runs clear past my home onto the neighbors below me. The hydraulic pressure that comes out is amazing. Right now, of course, we've got a lot of water, but everything's pushing out, and if I take the cap off my well right now, it shoots a 6-inch stream about 50 feet in the air. Normal water pressure. So a couple points. One, when you remove the vegetation, a lot of the stuff, the trees, soak up and take up a lot more surface water than what grass is going to do. So you're going to be releasing more water down below directly at my house, which is actually pushing out of the ground. So that's one concern. The second concern is this was about the ditches and about them being able to handle the runoff water going down our road. It's at max now, and it's an old road. It wasn't built to county specs. That's not true. It's just what's going to work with it. But one of my concerns is if when you put the project in, what protection do I or my neighbors have that if it changes the water flow and causes damages to my property because of this change in hydraulic pressure, how am I to deal with it personally? You guys, as you know, is there a condition in for it? Is that part of an insurance? Is that part of a claim that has to be made? I don't worry about that.
Speak to the board. I just speak to the board, please. We'll get your
Okay,
question.
sorry.
Yeah, that's
Anyway, that would be the first. Second thing is, my question is, what is the depth of the posts that are going to have to be put into the ground
okay.
to set these solar arrays? Again, with me being there, living next to it, I know what has to be done to get through that rock.
All right.
Worked up there, you know too.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer drill for every single piece, every single post, if you're lucky. So, if you're not, then you're going to have to blast. So then the next question is, my foundation, my footers are on that shelf rock for both my shop and my house. So if you blast, it's going to literally shake the foundation of my house, which is, I guess, maybe 150 feet from your project, your immediate drilling or posts. So my only concerns are for just remind adjacent to it, if there are adverse effects to my property attributed to the installation of this project, what systems are in place by the county to protect me from it, or to assist me with recovery, or how do I address it?
All right. Thank you. Who's next? Anybody else want to speak in opposition?
My name's Jeff Law. I live up on Heisel Road as well. Bought my house in '86, so at that point in time, I had a clear view of the WISP. I got to see all the lights and everything. I watched the fireworks from our front yard, get out, the trees grow, can't see them, went through there, get down the road to watch them now. But there's several things that were said during Spencer's presentation there that you guys just rethink and find answers for and stuff there. When you talked about the viewscape and showed the little red arrows there, shot from across with the WISP and all that, and made the assumption that the trees are 65 feet high and and the panels are behind it, you're not going to be able to see it, and the hill rolls and stuff. You're already sitting in an elevated position. 7-foot stockade fence does nothing to protect the viewscape there from the upper elevations there around the lake. That is our selling point. It's nature. It'll help us driving up Heisel Road. We won't be able to see 200 solar panels and stuff back there in the field, but the viewscape review and stuff there needs to be rethought a little bit. You got a 40-foot buffer of mature trees. Sounds like a lot, but they're not hedges. Those are mature trees. That's what, Bob? Three trees probably between to make up that 40 feet. You see right through them. That doesn't give a visual buffer. If it was shrubs and all that kind of stuff, yes, but those aren't pine trees on that section. That area from Ferguson Circle there all the way up to the top of the hill stayed undeveloped because of the shallow bedrock conditions that Maria and Eric were all talking about. That's the only reason why it's not solid houses all the way up through there. Affordable homes and stuff that close to the lake and stuff there is a priority, in this area. We thought, okay, we're solving this when they did the FAA grant and stuff there for the airport, and they put the water line up through there. Thought, okay, we're going to get public utilities now. Now all that property will get developed. Well, no, we weren't allowed to tap onto that because that went to the airport, and that was under an FAA grant. Even when we asked, even when they wiped out trees on my property to put the lines in. 10 years, whatever years later and stuff on that, we get, demand letters from the county that say, now you have to connect to the tap because the FAA and the airport gave the lines to the county to manage. Okay. But, still, all those properties and stuff now are just now in the position that they could be developed for their intended purpose, like residential. You've got the utilities and stuff there. Those homes would not perk, which is why there wasn't anything there. And yes, there is artesian flow in that bedrock everywhere along the side of that hill. Made the comment that there was no environmental impacts. Well, the site plan doesn't sit on any of the buffers for the intermittent streams or anything like that. It doesn't have a wetland on it. But to the east of it, between that site and the substation, where I'm going to assume is going to be your tie-in to get your power out, has to cross those. They didn't say how they're going to do it, whether it's going to be aerial or whether it's going to be, trenched. I can assure you, you're not going to trench it. It'll be a horizontal, or if that. That A-frame house just above the power lines from the project, don't ask him how much he just spent and stuff there putting in his electric, because he had to bore from the Walter Haydell's house there on the left-hand side all the way down, because electricity does not run from Ferguson Circle up, to the top of the hill. Our power comes over one way and their power comes up from the bottom. It's hard to say what gonna happen because there's no stormwater, provisions or anything shown on the site plan, and I know they're gonna have to go through the whole permitting process. But when you take, fully wooded area and stuff there, and clear cut it, and you've got 12 acres of clearing, and at least 8 acres of solar panels, the panels are all counted as impervious. They're not sucking up any water, and there is no shelly sheet flow and stuff there, so there better be some kind of pond or impoundment and stuff there, and I would, from the engineering side, I would consider a dry pond, because you're gonna need that storage area and stuff there, because all along Heisel Road, we get washouts from the ditches all the time.
I'm gonna ask you to stop here for a second. I appreciate everything you're saying, but as we said before, that our board can't help you with any of that stuff.
I
So,
understand.
is there anything that you can speak to us about that we can help you with? Is there anything you think would help alleviate your concerns? Again, assuming this does happen.
You asked for a suggestion if they get their approvals and during construction, yes. Do an all-stop like oil and gas regulator companies and stuff have to do during construction that does not allow you to run your, heavy trucks and stuff during the bus running hours. Should be a simple enough thing to do. We have, there on 219, there's a overlook and stuff. You can stage trucks there. That's state property or whatever and stuff there, but
And that's the kind of suggestion I'm
lock out when you can actually run, because Heisel Road starts with, 2 hairpins right off the bat and stuff there. Your lawn trucks are gonna have a good time staying between the ditches. Yes, you can do that, but, for thrasher and stuff there, you guys have to think of something there a little bit different and stuff there because of what you've got with the bedrock conditions. I don't know that you did any geotech or anything like that, but I can tell you, and you can talk to anybody in county roads and all that, what happens and how hard it is to get anything up through, there. The water goes everywhere off the top of that bedrock, and, an assumption that there's 12 inches of topsoil, it ain't there. It ain't there. So, those things can be addressed. I would be interested from your old standpoint and stuff there, how you do cross, the environmental areas and stuff there. And part of your job is this particularly a bad spot? It's not a desirable spot, other than the fact that it is sitting right next to the substation. That's what makes it so desirable for UG. If that substation was sitting out, 15 miles up the road and stuff there, they wouldn't be looking at that spot at all.
Thank you. Would somebody somebody else? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sworn in.
Okay, you might as well get your money's worth.
My name is Barbara Law. I've lived on Kaiser Road almost 40 years. A couple of questions I have. One, how long will the construction actually take? They talked about planting new vegetation. How long, you're going to start out as little shrubs. How long till they'll actually be tall enough to help hide those panels that you guys are putting in? And the other question is, you talked about the panels going from east to west. The east side of that is where Kaiser Road goes up. So that's where the traffic is going up. Is the glare going to be on the traffic, when you're driving, because that's where the road is, and it is a dead-end road. So, that is a concern. The other thing is, our road washes up quite frequently. I think I'm on a first-name basis with county roads, because every time we get bad rains, and it washes out, I call and say, hey, there's stuff on the road. In the winter, it freezes over, so if there's a lot of water that comes to your project, we're gonna have ice on that road. And more than once, we've had residents hit ice spots because the water washes out there all the time and then freezes on the road. And the school bus does travel that road, and it is a very narrow road, so, it is a concern with school buses and, what's gonna happen with the ditches and, If they widen the ditches, the road is already narrow, so there's not a lot of space to make bigger ditches. So just, a couple concerns for safety for everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else that's sworn in who'd like to speak? Okay, you guys like to try to answer some of these, rebut some of this questions, answer some of these questions the community has for you?
All right, where do we start? Which one should we?
Have you done any geotech on the site?
We have not done geotechnical.
So-
That is a part of the development.
So you, in your paperwork, you say that the posts will be driven in, assuming you can't drive through rock, what will you do then?
So, great question. If it turns out not to be a viable solution to be able to install, ground screws or piers,
Mhm.
then another solution we could potentially do is called a ballast system,
Mhm.
where you're not penetrating through the ground.
Mhm.
Excuse me, could you go to Mike? Yeah, I couldn't hear.
Get you, bring your mic up there,
I just
sir.
said, sorry about that. So we haven't done geotech yet. But we will do it. That is a part of our process, as folks here would imagine. If that report informs us it's not viable, not possible, even with pre-drilling or ground screws, to do any sort of driven foundation, a alternative solution is what's called a ballast array. So what a ballast is you have essentially these like concrete blocks that serve as the foundations. I think again, we'll see what that looks like, and take it from there.
Is there a chance that you could get a geotech report that would make it cost prohibitive and not move forward with the project, or is it at this point have you invested to the point where you can't really see anything other than regulation stopping you?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Has it ever happened to you before?
Pardon?
Has that ever happened to you before? Get a site that you just can't work?
Trying to think, in terms of, there absolutely are sites that are not viable for solar, that through the development process, we figure out there's some sort of a fatal flaw. Absolutely. This one, it's just frankly too early for me to know.
Okay. Do you have some?
What are the depths of the posts that, if they are to be
Yeah.
planted, what's the depth of the post?
Good question. Pardon?
The geotech will tell how.
Yeah, I think the geotechnical report would indicate that to us. We don't have it yet, so.
And if in fact the ballast system is required, do you know what depth that will accommodate for?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know all the specifics to it yet, but what I do know is, the trees still, of course, have to be cleared. I believe they put down kind of some rock aggregate, and then the ballast, I've seen it before, it goes in what's called almost a pan. It's basically a aluminum bin or some sort of steel bin, something like that. Concrete goes in with it. So there's like a surface, some sort of rock aggregate, and then the ballast itself. That's, of course, engineered by an engineer to be
So that will raise it all higher.
So,
They'll still have to stay under their 20-foot
right,
maximum,
exactly.
no matter
We
what.
still have to remain.
That's in the code.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. If you have to go the ballast route, that makes decommissioning a lot different, does it not?
It would be different, but it's the same principles, right? Of removing the solar modules, removing the racking, that just is taking a different shape, and removing the foundations. So,
If you have to drill every one of those holes and have precision and concrete and everything, you're not getting those posts out.
yeah, and I think we would avoid at all costs doing any sort of concrete foundation. Typically, what the industry has gravitated towards at this point are ground screws or some sort of pier.
Could I
please,
just note right here that we're not here to engineer this project. This is strictly a zoning situation, and it's about whether this is appropriate for this location more than anywhere else. We'll leave that to the engineers, and they have limitations of setbacks that we're looking at from the property lines, protecting the neighbors from looking at it, or any other type of water situations like that. Whatever design they have to come up with has nothing to do with what we're doing today. So let's keep it to where we're protective issues for the neighborhood.
So we're,
Well, that's part of the neighborhood. And this project will have to go through grading and stormwater management. It will have to go through county roads and numerous other entities that have to approve this, including MDE, which is the Maryland Environmental. So please try to keep it to zoning issues, if you would.
Considering that all has to be done, I have a question for you all. Why would you give them the exception before this is all done, all the research?
okay, again, I'm going to ask you to hold your questions. We've had that partner. I'll give you a chance after he's done for a couple more questions, okay? Just want to see if we've addressed some concerns that we heard. Mr. Lindsay had a concern about, can you just speak to an industry standard for us, assuming something that you did affected his property? Is there insurance in place for that type of thing?
Absolutely. Our project will have to have insurance. So we have to go through an extremely rigorous financing process with external partners. They're driving our project through independent engineering, which is an engineering firm. So the scrutiny on this project is going to be incredibly high. With that being said, the project will have insurance. That is a standard practice for any operations.
In the industry.
How
Okay.
would someone get damages covered?
It's a really good question. I would imagine there would need to be a conversation, and then the process would have to continue from there. But
Anyone had to sue you?
I hope not. I hope that
Okay.
that never happens. We really, we prefer that to never occur, of course. But yeah, I think it would be, flagging the concern and taking it forward.
Okay, thank you. Board members, we have any other questions for this gentleman? Okay, we good? Anything else you want to say in summation?
There's a couple things that I could just quickly run through. So, construction timeline, we're contemplating 6 to 12 months. The gentleman, what was your name, sir? Jeff Law. Jeff brought up a great suggestion, and we'll bring that back to our deployment team, which is kind of a window where the buses are coming in and out of the street. We will do everything we can to accommodate that. I think that's a reasonable ask, for sure. Kind of another thing that I think is just really important to note is, this is the first step. So there will absolutely be stormwater controls that will work with our partner Thrasher to ensure. We're going to go through other development steps like geotechnical, independent engineering, etc. That's one thing to note. Another thing that might be worth noting is the interconnection point. We have it at Picel Road, kind of towards the southeast campus. We're working with the utility on that for the circuit upgrade that they have. So the utility's aware of the project. We're working hand in hand with them, and the project is going through its different steps.
I have a question.
Hold on, please. Anything else?
For me, that's
Okay, I'll give you another chance to ask questions, but you need to come up here and speak into the mic so everybody can hear us. Did I swear to you in last time?
No.
No.
You swear and affirm that the testimony that you're about to give the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals is truth?
Yes.
Your name, please?
Linda Nagy Lindsay.
Okay.
Do you, I worked for the county for 32 years, and I was involved in some of the projects for the windmills that came in. Those companies normally, you know, somebody came in, made their presentation, did all that, then they flipped them to somebody else. And, you know, we were going down the line of owners after owners. Do you normally do that for your projects?
Should I jump up here?
No, just let her, well, I'll let you respond. You good?
I'm good. That's
Okay,
it.
anybody else?
Yeah, kind of a similar question. The project in I don't know if it's under the carbon credit programs or not, something, but who gets the carbon credits? Is it the state of Maryland, or is it New York? Or, because I know some of the windmills.
Okay, again, that really has nothing to do with
Well,
what we're doing
it
here.
doesn't
I
give
I
any of
appreciate
the-
your
of the
concern, but
public and stuff, because if we're going through all this only to give all the green benefits away, that's stupid.
I can't help you with that, dude.
I know.
That's what I'm telling you, so I really,
Del-
thank you.
Delaware doesn't have to do windmills offshore there because they got Backbone Ridge.
That's for another entity, I'm sorry. You want to just respond to that, and then we'll cut it off?
All right, so happy to answer both those questions. First question was development growth, absolutely, okay. Yeah, so as mentioned, we're an independent power producer. Our typical approach as a company is to own and operate these projects long term. We're backed by Nova Infrastructure, which is a huge company, and that is our intention, that is our goal. We are under a lease agreement with the landowner. There are clauses in there that allow you to sell should that come up, but that's not our typical business model. So there are firms out there where all they do is develop a project, bring it to what's called notice to proceed, and then they sell it to someone else. And there's also vice versa where people only acquire. That is not our bread and butter. That's not our typical approach. Our approach is to own. But I can't predict the future, but that's the approach. In terms of carbon credits, things of that nature, I'm not sure if I can speak to that, but what I can say is this is a community solar project. So how it works is we are generating electricity long term. We're exporting into the grid, and effectively through a mechanism called community solar, local folks are able to get a discount on the grid. They are what are known as our off-takers. So, for example, with these windmills that were installed here several years ago in Garrett County, perhaps they were under what's called a power purchase agreement, where windmill gets installed, they're selling power to one off-taker, right? This is a bit different, and it benefits the general population more because you're generating electricity, and then Frank or Sue is getting the discount by subscribing to the system on their electricity. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good?
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will close the public portion of our meeting. We are going to stay and deliberate what we've heard. You're welcome to stay and see what we decide, or you can go at your choice. All right? All right, gentlemen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good.
Oh, thank you. You're done with this?
I'll be back.
The only thing that I heard that I think is tied to bus run or something like that. What else did you hear?
If you will, please.
That's it.
This is the special exception, so if the board shall require that, you're the board drop the question of how many. I think that they will be solar requirements, but I don't think that this is in harmony with the neighborhood. In harmony with, appropriate in appearance, the existing or intended character of the zoning assessment. That's my prediction.
How can it not be in
harmony with the intended use if it's all, if it's an approved use, it's an approved use. I mean, I agree.
Require that any proposed use and the location be suitable for the property, okay, it's suitable, and designed to be in harmony with and appropriate in appearance with the existing presenting character surrounding the site. I don't think it is. I mean, you're taking down 10 acres of trees in a residential area. You could have these on top of the marina, storage buildings, you could have them in the town center on top of the
This is
shopping center.
I think I'm gonna say two things. When the word I'm on that one is intended use, when it's an intended use of the vicinity.
Now, it's proposed use and location.
You say intended, something, intended character of the general vicinity. It's an approved use in our zoning ordinance, so from that I would infer that it's an intended use.
Yeah, but I don't think it's in harmony with and appropriate in appearance. I mean, if they want to do solar, they could put it on top of shopping centers, they could put it on top of this. This is taking down 10 acres of trees in a residential area. I don't think that's a violation. That's my opinion. Everybody else.
I definitely agree with that. How far can you develop, you know, how many ways those trees would still be.
Keep it down, I mean?
People, well, can I ask you to quiet down, because they can't hear themselves.
We're still on the air too. But the real thing is we have been instructed, and maybe it was before you came on board, we've been instructed in special exceptions that unless we hear testimony that leads us to believe it's worse here than, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that it's worse here than any other area in the district, we have to approve it.
Well, I think it is worse here than any other.
It's worse there than on the side of the hill facing Swimming Tree.
You put it on top of shopping center, you could put it, I mean, there's a lot of places that are already industrial that you can put it.
This is a mandate from the state, and it's gonna get a lot worse in about a month. If you're trying to fight them to put it anywhere, it's not gonna work. They're gonna upset your apple cart.
I'm just saying, I read the statute, and in my opinion, they haven't met the ordinance. And maybe you have this other guidance that's not yet part of the ordinance, but, I mean, I'm just one vote.
No,
If it carries
I would
today,
just say
then
to
they
you
can go to
that
certain
I don't
courts.
think anybody sitting here wants to see a map.
I mean, they have another avenue if we voted no. Nothing to say. I think
In our instruction, am I correct in what I'm saying about what the instruction we received from on high?
Focus on restriction and requirements.
Unless we see some reason why we think it's worse here than anywhere else in that district, we have to approve it.
That's pretty hard to prove.
I know, but but this is not the worst place. Shopping center would be better, but this is not the worst place for it. The worst.
We fought one. Only one that I know of, and we won. But that was on San Francisco.
Yeah, that was in the view shed. That was clearly in the view shed.
I was just gonna do
Yeah.
that.
I don't have a problem with defeating the special ordinance for community solar, and then I come back to the ordinance for special junction.
I mean, I don't disagree with Mike, but from what the instruction I've been given, I think I have to go in favor personally. To me, the only question is there anything that we could do? I think they've already addressed the screening, they've already addressed all that stuff better than anything we've seen to date. I don't know what else we could ask them to do about that.
The only other thing, and it may be, this is where I believe Bruce, the business, the issue of the school buses and the heavy trucks and that sort of thing. Now, that may fall under county roads. I
That's
do
one
not
of the
know.
things you can put on there.
You
They
can put on
cannot
that
be on
condition.
the roads,
During school bus hours.
Sure.
Yep.
That's a
We're
good
just gonna-
idea.
Lighting,
Early morning.
That's the only
late
thing I
afternoon.
heard that I didn't really help with. I agree.
That's, you know, that I
lighting,
thought was good.
noise, you could point out that, there's existing, stormwater management issues on that road already.
Yes.
We need to put, it's not a zoning issue, but it's certainly a, public, safety thing, that, extra scrutiny on that we're not gonna put more water into those neighborhoods.
And I would have said something about asked if we could condition it on a determination of the true geology, but they're gonna do that.
They're gonna do that, they have to do that, and MD is gonna look at it, SCD is gonna look at it, and our stormwater management, engineers are gonna look at it. And as Bruce and Steve can probably attest to, they're pretty, meticulous about that.
He's just gonna scrape that down with his rock and put forms on it and put a concrete pad down.
I was thinking
Now,
that
he's not gonna try.
engineering wise, I would hold it to the bedrock.
Well, I think it makes it easier to drill at the end.
Pardon?
Drill it, take out the concrete, make it.
I mean, with Tapcon every post to the bedrock, if it's right there.
He's just gonna take it out of bedrock, put forms on it, pour concrete.
Balance is just a fancy way of saying what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
But again, we can't worry about that. What can we do to help the community? What conditions can we put other than the school bus thing? I got news for them. I think they timbered their piece for a different company. There's been trucks on the road recently. I think part of that's been timbered. But hey, that doesn't even.
You wanna make them
Stormwater's
wide?
gonna take care of that, so anyhow, he has to go through stormwater to begin with. And there's not much we can do about stormwater, say what you want.
Can you make them widen the road off from, the intersection all the way up to
If
where
that's the
the-
problem with the property lines up and down through there, who owns what's the water works? I don't know,
Definitely restrict the truck times.
Niceville Road is a county road, correct?
I believe so.
Then it should have the width of the county required at the time it went in.
Well, it went in
It may not
before.
pass today's.
It probably went in before county roads had a.
How do you take a road over unless it has some out of width?
No, they owned it. I'm just saying, it probably was built prior to them having road standards.
True of them. So you always make a suggestion that county.
A lot of the older roads,
Look on
like
two
Glendale
widening the
Road.
road. County can do that, but the county roads will take care of that. You're not gonna let them do it anyway.
I think that during the permit and review, all that's going to be looked at, and I don't see how, I agree with the school, but the hours of operation, I agree with that 100%. I don't see how you're going to burden them with a bunch of stuff. I've built a house up there, I've taken lumber trucks and concrete trucks and everything up there. I didn't kill anybody, I didn't run anybody off the road. You know what I mean? We got to be careful to not react to some of the situations.
And I don't think there's any.
Yeah, again, that doesn't matter. I don't know, gentlemen,
Usually what we're limited to is conditions. And one of the chief conditions that I recall that we've had, that we've articulated, is screening. They've done it to screens. They're smart, they're doing that stockade fence.
That's what I said.
We were on the phone with them numerous times
Yeah.
about what they needed to do. I mean, they understand the process, and Spencer was the one that did, the Coyote project. You all remember that.
Our biggest thing is, I think about is a school bus. That's not the.
Light noise, I mean, we can put all that regular stuff in there too. Which is standard Comar things anyway. No construction during nighttime hours, noise levels to meet Comar, all lighting is downward and inward.
And they don't use typically lighting in a solar field anyway.
No, once it's built,
No,
it's done.
he said the only lighting would be something like automated lights that come on somebody opens the gate
I see.
to go in
Sure.
the nighttime
Sure.
to do maintenance work or something. Otherwise, it's going to be dark. Maybe security, it is.
I don't think that's ours. We do have 2 operating buildings.
So, Mike, you're gonna make a motion to deny?
Well, not yet. Second it. I'll just go wherever you can go.
All right, so who's gonna make a motion to approve then, somebody? Can I do it? I can't do it as the chairman, can I? Should.
So those ones we have.
We have somebody willing to make a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I mean, I'm gonna be all in, so I'm gonna be in favor, Mike's gonna be opposed, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with this, with the exception.
I'll sit down.
Okay. All right.
All right, folks.
All right, quiet please. We finished our deliberations on this case, special exception 516. Gentlemen, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Approved with conditions?
Yeah, we definitely do the school bus issues, the traffic issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some standard issues we put on there also.
We'll restrict,
As in lighting, after hours work.
okay, good. So the motion on the floor,
And some scrutiny from the county for conditions to manage the stormwater.
okay, all right. So the motion on the floor is to approve with conditions.
Yes. That's correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Alkin seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
We have 4 in favor, 1 opposed. We'll write the conditions on our things. I want to thank everybody for coming. Appreciate your input. Just some housekeeping things here, guys. While you're filling out your stuff, we have no old business or new business. Do we have a date for the next meeting, Bruce?
We have, yeah, it should be
Still here?
for July 17th.
Our next meeting is July 17th at 3 o'clock. We have any cases so far? Nothing yet, Rob?
No.
Nothing yet. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Mr. Administrator?